You wanna know something? You wanna know what my least favorite word is in the entire world, like ever? Cringe. I would honestly go as far as to say that I despise that word. And that's a word that has come up a lot on my social media, about my social media, in my comments from certain friends over the last 3.5 years. And I gotta say, it used to bother me. It used to really bother me. But now, I use it to fuel me. Hey there, my name is Stefania. Welcome to my channel. I am so glad you could make it today. As the title suggests, cringe, cringey, is your secret weapon. We are made to feel that the word cringe has a very negative connotation around it, that being described as cringe or cringey is like mortifying. Now, I personally have struggled with imposter syndrome for most of my adult life so far. We all do. We all have imposter syndrome on some level, whether you realize it or not. But this year, in 2023, I was able to get a better handle on it. Honestly, the fact that I'm even making this video right now shows that I have gotten a handle on it. And I'll tell you why a little bit later. Here's the thing. I'm making this video because I don't want you to feel like an imposter anymore. I don't want you to feel like you're holding yourself back because you're afraid of being perceived, or you're afraid of that you're not qualified enough, that you're not good enough for it. But most importantly, I don't want you to feel like cringe is a bad thing anymore. And I'm gonna explain to you today why cringe is not a bad thing. Cringe is a side effect of success. From here on out, cringe is no longer a negative thing. Are you with me? Because I have done a lot of things in my life that could be perceived as cringy. I mean, posting online, that's cringy. Having a social following is cringy. I've heard it all. In the past, I have let cringe, cringy, the fear of being perceived, the fear of people like sending my videos in a group chat, I've let that hold me back in the past, but not anymore. Cringe, cringy, that propels me. It's about to propel you too, okay? From here on out, cringe, we like cringe. Cringe is a good thing. Cringe is a side effect of success, period. So hear me out. We're gonna break this video down into chapters. The first chapter is gonna be all about imposter syndrome, where it comes from, why we have it, why it's so easy to feel like an imposter, and most importantly, how to get it in check. The second chapter is gonna be all about how cringe is our secret weapon. It's not a bad thing. It was never a bad thing. And there may be people in your life that make you feel like cringe is a bad thing. In this chapter, I'm gonna tell you a little quick story about the people that I used to surround myself with that held me back. We're gonna talk about why the word cringe literally set me back. Held me back. The last chapter is gonna be how you can combine your newfound love for the cringe with getting your imposter syndrome in check, and how that's about to open up a whole new world for you. A whole new world. One where cringe is your secret weapon. Okay, first off, let's dive into imposter syndrome. What is it? Well, if you don't know what imposter syndrome is, that's okay. The good news is that whether you know what it is or not, you've probably experienced it. It's an inability to think that you are qualified or deserving of something. For example, for so long, I didn't think that I was cool enough, interesting enough, funny enough, etc. enough to have a social presence. That was me convincing myself that I wasn't qualified for something, I wasn't good enough for something, even though nobody in my external world ever said that I wasn't good enough to have a social following, that I wasn't funny enough. Well, you know, there might have been people who did say that, but I don't care anymore, at least. But you can experience imposter syndrome over a number of things. It could be going on dates. It could be a job interview. It's really anything that brings up these feelings or emotions that you're not good enough, you're not qualified enough for something. And usually when we tell ourselves in our own head that we're not qualified, we're not good enough, we're not deserving enough of something, usually our reality and what's around us follows suit. What I've learned in therapy is that it's very easy to blend your imposter voice in your head with your own voice. So when you hear your imposter speaking to you, you think it's yourself speaking to yourself, when in reality it's not. It's stemming from anxiety. Our brains are always trying to protect us. And when there's something going on in our external environment that's triggering that, where there's like that subconscious voice that's like, oh my God, what if we fail? What if we're not good at this thing? What if we look stupid? What if people make fun of us? Then that subconscious fear, that subconscious voice translates into our conscious mind into an imposter voice. That voice that you hear in your head that says, you're not ready for this. Ooh, like this job, it says you need 5 years of experience, babe. You've only got 2. Like, you're not gonna get it. Let's just move along. Let's not even apply. Have you done that before? Have you talked yourself out of something because there's this voice in your head that says you're not good enough yet, you're not ready for it? Have you ever done that? Because I have a lot of times. But the good news is that it's not difficult to get that voice in check. The first step in solving any problem honestly, but especially psychologically. The first step is awareness. It's always awareness. When you hear that voice going in your head, those are moments that you need to bring awareness to that voice. You need to bring awareness to the situation and awareness to the present moment. And I know that you're probably like, but I am present, so but are you aware? Like I said before, it's very easy to blend that imposter voice in our head with our own voice. Can you bring awareness to that voice when that voice is going off? When you're in front of a job application, when you're in front of something that is triggering that voice, that fear? Can you realize that that's happening? Can you just take a moment and separate yourself from it? And instead of judging it, ridiculing yourself, getting down on yourself, can you just be curious for just like a second? Can you just be curious? Can you be inquisitive? Can you just kind of psychoanalyze yourself for a second? By the way, guys, this is everything that I've learned in therapy over the last 2 years. So therapy's expensive. Okay, take some notes. The questions that helped me identify that voice were, why am I feeling this way? What is going on in my external environment around me that is triggering these feelings, that is triggering these fears? Over time, when that voice pops into your head, when you're inquisitive of it and you're curious and you observe it rather than internalize it, it allows you to not only get it in check, but separate yourself from it. Eventually, it allows you to allow yourself to stop holding yourself back. Just like the example I used earlier with the job application, there are so many times that we tell ourselves that we're not good enough for something. That imposter voice tells us that we're not good enough, and we don't go for it because we've already convinced ourselves that we're not gonna get it, it's unattainable. We've already told ourselves that. So if you tell yourself that you're not worth something, that you're not good enough for something, you're never gonna go for it, you're gonna hold yourself back, and that thing is never gonna happen. Maybe that thing was gonna happen though. Maybe you were gonna get that job. Maybe even though you had 2 years of experience on the job and they were looking for 5, maybe you did something else in your resume that they're looking for. What if your resume went to the top of the pile because of that? But because you were hung up on some other thing, thinking that you weren't deserving enough, thinking that you weren't good enough, that voice going off in your head, you'll never know. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, baby. You cannot let it hold you back. And the fact that I'm even making this video today is a huge step in the right direction for me, because I have always wanted to talk about imposter syndrome. Like I said at the beginning of the video, it's something that I've experienced for a lot of my adult life, and I'm just now at almost 24 years old, figuring it out, sorting it out, getting it in check. I don't know why I always put so much emphasis on in check. I don't know, it just feels good. I didn't think that I was qualified to speak on imposter syndrome for the longest time, because I always kind of led with this assumption that someone out there is more qualified than me, and they're making a video, they're talking about it. Why would people want to hear it from me? Why would people want to like listen to what I have to say when they can, you know, I don't know, go watch Oprah and she's saying the same thing? But the reality is that was me holding myself back, because maybe there is somebody out there who would rather hear it from someone like me for whatever reason, I don't know. But for the longest time, I shut that off before I could even figure it out. So this is proof. The proof is in the video. The proof is in the pudding. Get your imposter syndrome in check, bestie, and stop letting it hold you back. Now that we've talked about imposter syndrome, let's talk about the word cringe, because these two things go hand in hand. Cringe is just a word that we're talking about. Cringe is something that, you know, is very popular in our little generation here. I don't know why, but Gen Z, we love the word cringe. And I feel like being described as cringe in recent years has been like, oh my God, like someone said I'm cringe, like, oh my God. Words like cringe fuel our imposter syndrome. Like our imposter syndrome just eats that up. Like anytime someone describes us as a word like cringe, oh my God, our imposter syndrome is at a buffet, baby. So let's talk about cringe, and we'll relate it back to imposter syndrome in the 3rd chapter of this video. I want to tell you a story about the word cringe and some of the people that I used to surround myself with. So when I first started my social media presence, I guess you could say, in August of 2020, if some of you have been following me or subscribed to me for a while, then you know that like my TikTok presence, my TikTok following, it was An accident, oops. No, I'm so serious. We were in the middle of quarantine. I was watching a lot of TikTok, obviously everybody was. And I was seeing like a lot of POV videos and I thought it'd be funny to make a POV barista video. Made a TikTok video, POV, you're a barista, went to bed, woke up, had 80,000 views on it. The rest is history. Listen, the people said part 2. I had to give them a part 2. I'm a performer. I'm committed to the act. At that point in 2020, I was a junior in college and the friends that I had in college are a lot different than the friends that I have now in my more adult life, I guess you could say. My post-grad life, there you go. The friends that I used to surround myself with when I was in college were not exactly the most supportive people. And I realize that now, but at the time I had, I don't know, rose-colored glasses on, I guess you could say. Platonic rose-colored glasses. 2 of my closest friends at the time used the word cringe to describe my TikTok content, my YouTube videos, basically the stuff that I was doing online. Cringe was a word that would come up quite a bit when they were describing what I was doing. I had a guy that I was briefly seeing for a little bit in college describe my content as cringe. Another one of my friends who I held pretty close to me, we were in LA a couple years ago, and first time in Malibu, we were sitting at Paradise Cove and I was sitting across the table from him and he like out of nowhere in front of all of our friends was like, oh, Stefania, you gonna like try to flex the fact that you're an influencer? I was sitting there and I was like, okay, I never even said that I was gonna do that. It was just it sucked. There was a lot of people surrounding me in that time of my life that just didn't have my best interest at heart, clearly didn't like the fact that I was succeeding in doing something different, doing something interesting and kind of fun. For the first time in a very long time, I had a hobby and a cool one and one that paid me on top of it. And yeah, the friends that I had just didn't like it. They didn't think it was cool. They thought it was cringe. But the thing is though, is that I don't fully blame them because they planted the seed, but for a very long time, I watered it in my own head. And their comments really held me back. There were times that I completely just stopped posting because I was just so embarrassed that I couldn't even hit upload, because every time that I would hit upload, I would just hear their voices in my head going, you're cringe, you're cringe, you're cringe, you're this, you're that, like this is so cringy, whatever. It held me back. I mean, cringe got me over 500,000 followers on TikTok. Like, what can I say? But the thing is though, is that I feel like if I never let their words, their cringe comments hold me back, I do think that that 500,000 that I am so grateful for, but I do think it may have been 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, I don't know, but I'll never know because I let it hold me back in those moments. I'll never let it hold me back again, but that's my story. At the end of the day, cringe really just means different. Like, I think that's what people are trying to say when they refer to something as, oh my God, that's so cringe. It's so different. And people are so quick to judge. People are so quick to look at different and go, ooh, like secondhand embarrassment. I would never do that. But just because they would never do that or don't have the guts to do it doesn't mean that it's stupid, doesn't mean it's wrong, doesn't mean it's bad, doesn't mean it's cringe. And in that moment, that person who is pointing the finger, and this is something I've learned over time, that person who is pointing the finger and going, oh, that's cringe, that's somebody who is choosing to look at something with judgment versus being inspired by it, rather. Because there have been so many times that I've seen somebody doing something that's kind of out there, kind of different. Maybe it's something that I would never do personally. But instead of me looking at them and judging them and being like, ooh, like I would never do that, I look at them and I go, damn, that's cool. Like, good for them. Like, they're doing their thing, like they're making their bag, like pop off. Like, even if that's something that I would never do, who am I to judge? Like, I'm not paying your bills, you're not paying mine. Like, why, I don't need to give you my 2 cents. And you probably don't want it. Actually, the people who are like pointing the finger and being like, ooh, cringy, judgment, all that, like actually, they're the weird ones. Like, you're getting flustered and all whatever over something that you could actually get inspired by. Like, you are choosing to look at something with judgment versus looking at it with inspiration or admiration or something more positive. You're the weird one. It's coming from a place of insecurity. It may also be coming from a place of jealousy. So good night. Thank you, next. And the funny part is that any of the people that I used to be friends with, I know for damn sure, if God came down from the sky, from the heavens, and was like, hey, you could trade your corporate job and instead do something creative, something that you're actually interested in, and you can make money off of it, and you could leave your 9 to 5. I know for a fact that those people would jump at that opportunity. They just didn't like that I had that opportunity, and they didn't. People can be very jealous. Some of your friends could be jealous. Some of your friends could be very competitive, and they may make you feel bad about the things that you're doing. They may describe it as cringe. They may say it's stupid. They may just shed any form of judgment onto it. But that's not your problem. That's theirs. It's coming from a place of insecurity. That may even be their imposter syndrome talking in their own subconscious brain being like, oh my God, like you could never do what that person is doing. You could never make YouTube videos. You could never flex the fact that you have a social following and like, you know, get a free drink, get a free meal in exchange for, you know, content, whatever the case may be. That's their voice, their little voice saying that in their own heads. And then it's coming out and externalized into the world as judgment, as negativity, as talking shit. I need you to get comfortable with something, especially if you're somebody who is like doing something different or is trying to become a creator, trying to become an influencer, trying to build a social media following. There are going to be people that call you cringe, call you all these mean things in your comments, to your face, behind your back. But I need you to know something. Number one, cringe, hello, is a side effect of success. I'm gonna tell you again, beat that into your head. And number two, they do see your light. They do. They just hope you don't. Some people, some friends that we keep around us, they try to dim our light because sometimes your light, my light, those people could be feeling like we are outshining them, and they don't like that. So they will do whatever they can to get in your head, make you feel less than who you are, what you're doing, make you feel cringe, all that shit. In reality, they're just threatened by you. They're just threatened by your light, they're threatened by your potential. Doing things differently usually leads to success, and people know that. When I was building a social media following, there was money that was coming with it. That was around the time that I had launched my clothing brand 3 years ago. Having a social media following helped me sell my product. There were people that were seeing me succeed, and they didn't like that. So instead of being inspired by me, instead of being supportive and uplifting me, they came down on me with judgment, with criticism, and with the word cringe. Okay, we've talked about both now. Let's round it off. Let's tie them back in together. Now, how do we combine our newfound love for the cringe, for being different, doing something different? How do we now combine that with getting our imposter syndrome in check? Well, let me tell you how we're gonna combine it, because these two things, it's gonna lead to a new sense of confidence for yourself. And again, I am speaking from experience. And listen, I'm not perfect. I still have my days, I still have my moments, but I don't allow things to hold me back anymore because I'm confident in my worth and I'm confident in my ability. So let me tell you how you can do that for yourself, because you are deserving of that. The biggest thing is that it starts with a sense of self. And I know that there's a lot of people, especially like my 18, 19, 20-year-olds who are subscribed to me. I know that that point in your life, and I mean several points in your life, but especially when you're young, you don't really have a strong sense of self. And realistically speaking, I don't think I started to develop my sense of self until this year, really. I mean, a little bit into last year, like 22, 23. And I'm sure that I have a long way to go. But at least at this point in my life, I do have a sense of who I am, what I like, what I don't like, what my abilities are, what my passions are. I'm getting an idea. What I've also learned is that in a lot of spaces that are new to us, that are unfamiliar, we view them as a threat almost. Let's say that you just got that brand new job, you landed it, you go to work, you go to the office for the first day, and you just have that sense of like, oh my God, like, am I smart enough to be here? Am I qualified enough to be here? That imposter voice usually speaks to us in spaces that are, again, unfamiliar. Instead of viewing it as a threat, view it as a sign of growth, an opportunity for growth. Those are moments, especially when it is so beneficial to get your imposter in check and be like, no, I am qualified enough to be here. I am good enough. I am deserving enough. I deserve to be here. When you know that about yourself, when you have that sense of self and sense of your self-worth, sense of what you bring to the table, when you know that about yourself, You are, what's the word? Not instructable, unstoppable. Nobody can tell you anything. Those are moments that we grow. For the longest time, I convinced myself that I did not deserve a seat at the table. For the longest time, I convinced myself that because my content was mostly barista-based, skit-based, comedy, kind of just wanting to entertain, make people laugh, do some coffee recipes, do some espresso martini recipes, get ready with me's, whatever the case may be. All of that content that I have done, I didn't think it was good enough to deserve a seat at the table. When I moved to the city of Chicago and I really started to take my social media seriously, I started to get invites to some of these events, some of these influencer marketing things and dinners and brand, like just different sort of events that brands were putting on in the city of Chicago. When I started getting invites, I would show up to these events and I would just let my imposter voice just like run rampant. Oh my gosh, like that voice in my head would just tell me all these things that aren't even true. Eventually, I got tired of it. Are you ever, like, don't you get tired of it? Don't you get tired of ripping on yourself in your own head, allowing your imposter voice to just literally rip you to shreds? It got to a point where I finally gave myself permission. Because here's the thing, nobody's coming to save you, love bug. No one's gonna come give you permission. Nobody's just gonna like come and be like, here you go, like you're good to pop off now, like go pop off. Like nobody's gonna do that. You need to give yourself that permission. You need to accept yourself. You have your own identity and you need to identify that and make peace with it. I had to make peace with the fact that just because I don't make the same content as all of these other influencers and creators that are at the same events that I'm getting invited to, just because we don't make the same content doesn't mean that my content's bad. Doesn't mean my content's cringy. It doesn't mean anything. Sunflowers and sunsets. They both look different, but they're both beautiful. Having a sense of self, understanding what you're able to bring to the table, and also accepting yourself for that, accepting yourself even for the things that you don't know right now. I'm not perfect. I'm sure there's gonna be multiple evolutions of my content even still, but that's okay because I accept where I'm at right now. I accept the fact that maybe in a year from now, I'm gonna look back at the content that I'm posting right now in November of 2023 and go, oh, I could have done better than that. That was, but it's a journey. And I give myself permission to not only show up as my authentic self and express that fully, but also accept myself from where I'm at right now. Trust me that you will always find your way. You will always find your crowd. You will always find your people. Get rid of the people in your life that make you feel like you can't do something, that you're too cringy, that you're too this, that like, ooh, like secondhand embarrassment, why are you doing that? I'm a living example of finding my way. When I moved to Chicago, I only knew 2 people. And those 2 people, unfortunately, aren't in my life anymore because they are a part of that group that I was talking about earlier. There was a point in time that I felt like I had no friends, that I had like no crowd, I didn't know where my scene was, and that was a year and a half ago. Fast forward to now, showing up as my authentic self, getting my imposter voice in check, being proud of myself and knowing what I bring to the table has allowed me to find where I fit in. It's allowed me to find the people that not only support me, but they're cheering me on, they're clapping. They wanna see me win as much as I wanna win. And I wanna see them win as much as I wanna win. The people that I have and the connections that I've made now are people that they know that my success doesn't take away from theirs. And vice versa. And let me just tell you something really quickly in case no one's ever told you this. You are not cringe, you're not stupid, you're not embarrassing, you're not any of those things. You're cool, you're different, you're unique, and people get threatened by different. People get threatened by unique because there's a lot of potential in that. Being cringe, being different is a side effect of success because usually successful people do things differently than the status quo. That person in your life that tells you that, you know, you trying to build a social following or, you know, sustaining a YouTube channel, whatever it is, those people in your life that tell you that those things are cringe are people that are going to be sticking to the status quo their entire life because in their heads, deep down, subconsciously, when they put their head on their pillow at night and it's just them, they are scared of being different. Your fear of looking stupid, your fear of being cringy, looking cringy is holding you back, and trust me, bestie, but when I finally gave myself permission to show up authentically and to give it my all is when the magic started happening. Can we just be so real, okay? Let's just be real right now. We are on a floating rock through time and space. What is time? What is space? I don't know. You don't even know. Why do you care what people have to say if it's negative? Why do you care? You were given this one beautiful life. What are you gonna do with it? Cringe is a side effect of success. Cringe is your secret weapon. If anyone says otherwise, good riddance, they can go. Whatever you're doing, whatever it is, I'm really proud of you for that, because that takes guts, and a lot of people don't have guts. All right, this cringy girl has some pad thai to whip up. Remember to subscribe, follow me on Instagram and TikTok. I will see you guys next time. And yeah, go embrace the cringe. It's cool.